Before weather apps, before radios, before anyone knew what a cloud actually was, storms just happened. And people had to explain it somehow. So today we're going back thousands of years, across 7 civilizations, to see what people actually did when the sky lost it. Gods, dragons, giant birds, hammer-throwing warriors, it's all coming up. Let's go. We start in Mesopotamia, around 3000 BCE, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates. To the Sumerians, a storm wasn't weather. It was a god named Enlil losing his temper. Enlil was the god of wind, air, and storms, one of the most powerful gods in their entire pantheon. When storms hit, priests made offerings almost immediately. Grain, beer, oil, anything to calm him down. They even wrote hymns begging Enlil not to flood the fields. Mesopotamian priests also kept huge collections of omen texts, records connecting storms, thunder direction, and cloud shape to predictions about the future. If thunder came from a certain direction, it might mean war. From another, a good harvest. This was some of the earliest forecasting on record, because for farmers, a storm wasn't just scary, it could wipe out an entire year's food. So practically, they built mud brick levees and drainage canals to protect their fields from sudden floods. Homes were built low, thick-walled, and clustered close together, built to survive wind, not fight it. Some myths went even further, describing storms as a beast called Anzu, a giant lion-headed bird of chaos who stole the powers of the gods. Basically, if you didn't know what caused thunder, you gave it a face and tried very hard not to upset it. Now Egypt, where storms were rare, but when they hit, people panicked. Because Egypt's storm god wasn't gentle. His name was Set, god of chaos, deserts, and violent weather. Set was also blamed for sandstorms, which could bury entire caravans in minutes. So travelers covered their faces, moved livestock into shelter, and waited it out. Sandstorms could last for days. Amulets shaped like protective gods were worn to ward off Set's anger during a storm. Egyptians also imagined the sky itself as a goddess, Nut, arching over the earth, holding back the chaos above. Her violent storm could feel like a crack in that protection, a rare glimpse of chaos breaking through. Rain was so unpredictable that Egyptians relied almost entirely on the Nile's flooding instead, a far more trusted, seasonal event. They built nilometers, stone gauges, to track flood levels and plan food storage months in advance. So when an actual thunderstorm hit, many saw it as a sign the gods were deeply unhappy. Over in Greece, storms had a much more famous face, Zeus. Zeus, king of the gods, hurled lightning bolts when he was angry. Storms were basically him venting. During storms, people rushed to temples, believing sacred ground offered protection. But sheltering under tall trees? Considered a terrible idea. Even then, they suspected lightning liked height. For sailors, storms were even more dangerous, and they prayed instead to Poseidon, god of the sea. Some sailors made small offerings before voyages, hoping to avoid Poseidon's temper altogether. The Greeks also had Aeolus, keeper of the winds, said to lock storm winds inside a bag to control them. In Athens, they even built the Tower of the Winds, a structure with carvings of 8 wind gods, doubling as one of the earliest weather stations in history. Farmers and sailors read nature closely too. Low-flying birds, restless animals, and reddish skies were treated as storm warnings. Some of that folk forecasting, red sky at night, sailors' delight, actually holds up scientifically today. Head north to Scandinavia, and storms belong to one god above all, Thor. Thunder was believed to be the sound of Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, striking down enemies. Lightning was Thor defending humanity from giants and chaos, so storms were actually seen as protective. Unlike cultures who hid in fear, some Norse communities saw storms as reassurance that Thor was still watching over them. Hammer-shaped amulets called Mjolnir pendants were worn or hung at home for protection. Odin, too, was tied to storms and wind, said to send his ravens Hugin and Munin flying across the world to gather news, storms included. Practically, longhouses were built low and sturdy, with turf roofs designed to handle brutal wind and rain. Norse sailors, famous for their longships, timed voyages carefully around storm seasons whenever they could. Across the Great Plains of North America, storms were read very differently. Many plains nations spoke of the Thunderbird, a massive spirit bird whose wings created thunder and whose eyes flashed lightning. In some traditions, storms were the Thunderbird locked in battle with underwater serpents or spirits, a cosmic struggle overhead. Rather than fearing storms alone, many treated them with deep respect. A powerful force to be honored, not just survived. In the Southwest, Hopi communities performed rain dances and ceremonies, asking the spirits, or kachinas, for needed rainfall. Further east, Iroquois longhouses were built to shelter multiple families at once, with thick bark walls made to handle severe weather together. The teepee's cone shape let strong wind flow around it instead of pushing it over. Genuinely clever engineering. Animal behavior was also closely watched. Restless herds or fleeing animals often signaled a storm was coming. In ancient China, storms were closely tied to dragons, but not the fire-breathing kind. Chinese dragons were water spirits believed to control rain, rivers, and storms. During droughts or violent storms, communities prayed to dragon kings, believed to rule different bodies of water. Ritual dances and drumming were performed to calm an angry dragon or beg for rain during a drought. Wind itself had its own deity too. Feng Bo, the wind uncle, blamed for sudden gusts ahead of a storm. Some accounts describe early kite flying used to test wind strength and direction before a storm arrived. Chinese astronomers also tracked seasonal winds and storm patterns with remarkable precision, some of the earliest systematic weather records in history. By the Han Dynasty,